we have a really wonderful system that's curated. Of course, there's lots of flexibility. We'll do whatever you want from the customer perspective. But generally, I just wanted to comment on that because what you said is so accurate. It's like it is really a struggle, especially now that it's not just a phone call anymore, right? It's a text message, it's an email, it's a chat. There's these, and new technology coming out all the time. So, but anyway, well, thank you for having me. I appreciate being here. It's great. My name is Raymond. I was in the pest control industry, as you mentioned, for about 32 years here in the state of Florida, where I live. I've done every single job there is. I've pulled maggot-infested carcasses out from crawl spaces. I've been in attics. I've stepped through a couple ceilings before. Yeah, so I know what we're doing here as far as the pest control stuff, and that really helps because I was a customer of Voice for Pest for 10 years before I came to work here. So when I came here, I was able to bring a lot of that customer experience and customer perspective and the industry. And then I borrowed a couple of employees that used to work with me in the pest control industry, and they work here now. So we have a few people here that really understand how phone systems can help pest control companies, be successful. And that really makes a difference, I think. We're at all the trade shows. We go to local state associations. I think I've met one other phone company out there in all these other shows. So we support the industry. We're part of the industry, and we're just happy to be here. And so, what we're trying to do is support and promote and help pest and lawn care companies and wildlife and home services in general just be more successful, grow faster, have more productive employees. So that's kind of the elevator pitch is, we're here to help you, and when we have a solution that we know will help you, and we're here to make things work for you.
Well, that's great. And and just so you know, I spent an entire career with AT&T. Okay. I wasn't really in the telephone side of things. I went through even before the breakup and then sort of the restructure with SBC. But I really sort of sat on the Yellow Pages side.
Okay. Yeah.
And grew up as a young guy selling ads door to door and ended up overseeing the operation nationwide with inside, outside key account sales reps. And interestingly enough, as we grew in time, communications and phones became the critical element. Even just if you're old enough to remember when we went from foreign exchange to remote call forwarding, just that simple little thing, it made enormous impact on the effectiveness of, in those days, advertising in the Yellow Pages, which was nothing more than what Google is today, but Google's on steroids, obviously. I mean, you got to go to Google now and you have a lot more opportunities to find things. But what we find is that we are very good. We being Rhino Pest Control Marketing is a marketing agency that we try to fit in the space where we're going to help our clients to grow their market dominance in the market they're in. And most of that is going to be online. And we can make that happen through doing a number of things organically as well as paid to bring leads in. What typically will happen, and I think for pest control companies it's critical, is as they start moving forward with a strategy and spending money to now grow their lead flow, say 2 times, 3 times, typically what will happen is the conversion rate will not stay pace with it. So it appears that, well, gee, we're getting 2 and 3 and 4 times the leads, but now instead of converting 40%, we're converting 8%. So we're spending all this money. And it almost always revolves around communication. And we will use a lot of different products with clients like Bird Eye, for example. We will use call rail for call tracking and things like this. And what's always hard is when you go to the client, you've got to present to them, look, Raymond, the issue here isn't the fact that you're exponentially growing with lead flow. The issue is that we are no longer following up. We're no longer getting, back to the calls in a matter of moments. we're no longer really doing a lot of these things that are and would effectively allow us to grow along with the growth. And I don't know if that makes sense to you, but I preach that a lot on my podcast episodes and in general in talking to the pest control space. And that is, it is all about today, fast communication, fast response, Johnny on the spot. And if you're going to take advantage of growing your lead through sources, whatever those are, you've got to be able to get back to them in a moment's notice. And so I wanted to let you talk a little bit about that, and then we can roll that into, and just so you know, and again, those people watching this, I'm in front of a camera. It's right here in front of me, but I've got a 40-inch monitor behind it. So when I'm doing this and looking around, that's what I'm doing. I'm looking at the monitor. But then we can talk a little bit about those 6 different services. And I even want you to expand a little bit about AI, because I know AI right now is the real hip, cool thing. But I'm not yet sold that AI is the catch-all answer to everything everybody thinks it is. So anyways, based on what I was just saying there, what are your thoughts about Voice for Pest and how it can really accelerate that conversion rate and that owner, manager, office manager, whoever it is, and their ability to communicate immediately with leads?
No, I mean, and you're absolutely right, Casey. I mean, there's a saying that he who responds first or she who responds first wins, right? I mean, if you're the first one, if somebody calls in and you respond right away, you're going to get that sale. And the crazy thing is, with texting and chat and all this technology that's just exploding everywhere, still about 80 to 90% of pest control business is done over the phone. Eventually, you're going to have to talk to your customer. Right. So, they can go online and they can sign up and they can do this, and you can send them a text message, I'm coming out in 3 hours. But sooner or later, you're going to have a conversation with them. So voice is still a huge component in the pest control industry. And what's happening is everybody's, voice is still there. It's that bastion in the center. And then everybody's adding in, bringing in the texting and the different things, and the chat and the email and those kind of things. So to answer your question, you're absolutely right. But what we've done is we've done some things to really help make that happen. And some of it does have to do with AI. And you're right. The challenge with AI right now is it's everywhere, but it's nowhere. It's everywhere. There's a lot of data and have all this great information. What do you do with it? Right? How does it help you? Right. And so that kind of goes back to what I started with, is like, as a company that really understands the industry, we use AI in a way that really makes very impactful, because what I see AI is doing is removing we have a lot of really smart people in this industry that spend a lot of time gathering data to create reports to give their companies actionable information, right? What AI is doing is it's removing most of the work to get the information. It's just saying, here's all the information you want, go do something with it. But then that's the question, what do you do with it? So to answer your question more directly, so there's a couple of things we've done specifically. So we have a feature we call Connect First, where if somebody goes on your website and fills out a form and says, hey, I'm interested in talking to you about your service, we put a little script in that email. And when that email comes in, our system automatically generates an outbound call. So you're not relying on an employee to see the email. You're not waiting on somebody to react to it, because, people don't always do everything they're supposed to do all the time. And even if they're doing everything they can, it might be really busy. It might take 5 or 10 minutes for them to see the email and make the call. That's too late. So we can generate a very quick instant outbound call. So your employees don't even need to be responsible for looking for leads coming in through email. The system just takes care of it. So that's one big step. And then the other step is getting that information in front of the people that need that. So, like, for example, you mentioned following up on leads. Well, our AI can send you a report every day that says these are the people that called in 3 days ago, or however many days you want, and nobody's called them back. Because we have the access to see the inbound call, and we also can see the outbound call. So we look at a new inbound call, and we go 3 days later and say, wait, there's never been an outbound call to that number. So a lot of little things like that add up to where, let's respond quickly to our inbound leads coming in through email. The ability to handle calls. One of the things we do with our integrations, and we're integrated to most of the CRM companies using this industry, is we have a product called Intelligent Call Routing. And what that does is it actually, when the call comes in before it even rings, our system is looking in that database. And if that number exists, we know it's a customer. So then we know if it doesn't, it's most likely not a customer. And the power there, to your point, is they can then handle those calls differently. You know, a customer's not going to cancel if you make them wait 90 seconds or 2 minutes. A lead's going to hang up and call somebody else. So on the customer side, maybe they can sit in the queue for a couple minutes, listen to music. You offer them an automatic callback. But on the lead side, hey, after 60 seconds, if nobody can answer it in the office, let's send it to a salesperson. Let's get somebody from our company on that live call, right? Instead of just sitting there in the queue and finally hanging up. So a lot of different things like that that we bring to the table. We can do a lot of things system-wise that make it faster and easier to respond and gather that information.
And do you have an open API integration that can be used if they're using, I know with some of the major software providers, you already have that set up, but do you still have an open API if they want to do some of their own integration?
Absolutely. We have open API. You know, you typically just have to sign an NDA, you know, because we're going to give you access to our stuff, right? And then it's pretty wide open. We have all the, I'm not a technical guy, I don't know all the right terms, but all the credentials and everything, all the keys and all that set up. So it's pretty simple to use our AI, but absolutely. And we welcome it. You know, we like to think of ourselves as a best of breed collaborator, integrator. So we bring different companies and different entities together to provide a cohesive solution that does a lot of wonderful things, typically at a much lower cost and much more agile and responsive manner than just one big company that does everything internally. You get a little bloated sometimes in those situations.
No, and what we try to do, where we try to fit in the space, so we're a smaller organization. There's a total of I think at last count we had 27 employees. We have a half a dozen freelancers that do some specific tasks for us around content writing, and one that helps with some reels editing for online. However, what we try to bring to the table with our clients is the ability to help them get all this stuff set up. So if they've got field routes or Pest Pack or Brio Stack or Gorilla Desk or whatever, and now maybe we're going to use High Level, and then maybe we're going to use HubSpot, and then or maybe we're going to use Call Rail is what is a typical good call tracking system. Now you bring a product like Voice for Pest in, and what they really look for from us, I think, as much as the lead production and the lead and the value of just doing generic tasks, things like posting to social media and Google Business Profile, things like that. What they really are looking for is, can you just help us get all this stuff plugged in and figured out and assist in a simple workflow for our office? And that is what we try to do, because if we don't, what happens is the marketing company can quickly become the enemy.
Yeah.
And all of the employees hate when the marketing company calls because, oh my God, we're going to get exposed. We're not doing our job. We got 4 different redundant tasks. We got all this going on. But that really is what we are trying to simplify for them. And with phone service in particular, and what you talked about with AI interests me, because where I am with AI, and we'll get calls every day, especially when you have the older owner and the younger son or daughter that's getting involved, and all they want to do is introduce technology to dad or mom, but they don't really know why. It's just cool. It's hip. It's all over social media. And AI,
it's what you do now. It's what you do. Yeah.
And AI is right in there. And so what I will always do is say, look, what do you want AI to do? What is it you want automated in a way that you don't have to touch it, or it's going to preemptively help you? And invariably, nobody can really answer that question. Well, I don't know. Won't it just do anything? Well, no. And you really need to think it through and prompt it to do those things that you want it to do. And so that's what we're trying to do, is help people kind of figure that out. For example, we just got a new client that was unhappy with one of the other agencies. And all that agency did for them was brag about the fact that they were a Google Premiered partner and could utilize some of Google's AI tools, which anybody can do, by the way. But their Google results stunk. And so the whole point was, okay, well, you got all this AI stuff that's doing it for you, that's building your ad groups, your keyword sets, all of these things. So you don't even know what it's doing. And you're paying Google the click cost, but you don't know what it is you wanted that automation to do. And this is where I caution my clients with AI and where I'm doing sort of the wait and see right now.
Right.
I'll give you another example. We were in the yellow pages, and that was again it was early technology, right?
Right.
And my sales reps would go out, and before they could go out back in those days, you had to have your account prepped. And that prep means, and it literally came in a little jacket. It was a kind of a little jacket, and you had your contract inside. And the job of the manager that I demanded was that every sales rep, before they could go see a customer, had to come in, had to be prep checked. And all that really was to ensure they actually looked at the account and got familiar with it before they went out to see the customer. Later on, as time progressed, that was all done automatically. All the prep check was done with the computer. And so they would get it and it would be all prep check. So essentially sales results started to slide. And when you went out and you saw it, it was very simply because they didn't know anything about the account before they went out there. And they thought all this magical automated prep was going to help them. So my point in all of that, and I'll get off my soapbox. I had too much talking.
That's okay. That's okay. Soapboxes are comfortable. Yeah.
What you just said rang true to me. And these are the kinds of things that we would want to be able to help a client and get acquainted and familiar with Voice for Pest. So I have two clients that, since we have announced this discussion, have already called me. Both of them happen to be in or around Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay.
And they've just signed up with you, and they're anxious to report back. And I'm anxious now to get involved with them to see what are you going to do with your product.
Yeah.
But let's take a second and so we talked a little bit about AI, and I'm on your website right now, and I'm looking on, I think I'm on the homepage. Yeah, I'm right on the homepage. And if you scroll down, and for those of you listening or watching, that's voiceforpest.com. And when I go down, there's AI suite of products, which we briefly tagged on. What is auto dialer?
Okay, so an auto dialer it really is one of the things it sounds like. It does exactly what it sounds like, but it does a lot more. So the thing about an auto dialer is, if you think about the business, pest control companies make collection calls, they make renewal calls, right? There's a lot of reasons they want to call cancels back, things like that. Collections and renewals are usually the two big ones, right? And so if you have your employees making these phone calls, what we know is that about 7 out of every 10 calls, you're going to end up leaving a voicemail. So you're paying people to sit there and call and call and call, and they're just leaving voicemails. Hey, this is Raymond with Raymond Pest Control, over and over and over. So, and the same thing for renewals and everything else. So what an auto dialer does is, essentially, instead of having your employees spend all their time calling and leaving voicemails, why don't you just have them sit there talking to people and let the auto dialer make the call? So the way it works is, there's 3 different types of auto dial call. One is notification only. So if you want to notify your customers, let's say you're going to close for a holiday, or maybe there's bad weather, we can send out a call to 1,000 people, 200, 10, whatever you want. And it's a one-way call, and it says, hey, this is Raymond Pest Control, let you know we're going to be closed because of the weather. Right? But it can be very specific. If you're calling about a service, it can be, we're doing your lawn service, whichever service, what day, what time, we could put all that in there as well. Then we have what we call our Press 1. So Press 1's really powerful for collections and for renewals. So what happens is, the dialer starts calling, right? And the dialer can be set up and configured. It's fully integrated with our phone solution. So we basically can throttle it. So it's up to the customer, but the customer could say, listen, I don't want the dialer calling anybody unless I have 2 people sitting there waiting to take the call. the last thing you want is to call somebody and they go hello and there's nobody there, right? They're in the queue hearing music, right? It's like, what the heck? So we can do that. So you're never going to have that situation. So what the dialer does is it calls, and as soon as it gets a voicemail, it leaves the message, but it's still calling. And the message is a recorded voice of somebody from the pest control company saying, hey, this is Raymond. So the person listening to the voicemail, it's the same. They have no idea that it wasn't somebody actually calling them and leaving a voicemail. It was automated, right? Because the voicemail recording is a person. But then the beauty is it's continuing to call people. And if you ever gotten every once in a while, you'll get a phone call and you answer it, just there's nobody there. Right. That's an auto dialer because it keeps calling and calling and calling. But once that throttle limit's reached, it just stops, right? So it's calling and calling and calling. Customer answered and then it says, hey, this is Raymond at Raymond Pest Control. We'd like to speak to you about your account. Please press 1 to talk to an agent now. They press 1, the call goes right back to your employee. They take the call. So they spend their time talking to customers and not leaving a bunch of voicemails. And the dialer can get through a tremendous amount of calls in a short period of time because remember, 70% of them are just voicemail. So, and then we also have what we call live answer, where you can actually have when somebody answers, the dialer can tell by the breath and everything else that it's a person, and then automatically sends the call back and your agent answers the phone. That can be a little dicey depending on internet capability and things like that at the customer's office or even on the caller side, because you're trying to make that live connection very quickly. So if everything's, if the internet's lined up and everything, it works really well. But that's a little bit of a tricky one. But the press one works great and the notification works great. And a lot of our customers use their CRM. You mentioned PestPac Brioset. They all have the capability to do kind of that blast thing and send it out and say, hey, we're coming out tomorrow. And if they're using them and they're happy with it, that's great. It's a wonderful feature. But we can do a couple things. We can actually show the company phone number and things like that because we are the phone system, so we can do a little bit more. But the CRMs do a really good job on the out. Hey, we're coming out tomorrow. But for collections and renewals, the auto dialer is really pretty powerful.
That from a marketing standpoint, I imagine you could even use that very
absolutely.
effectively.
100%. Yeah, outbound sales and everything. Yeah, you can set up a bunch of the thing is what does everybody do with all the leads they don't sell? I mean, when I ask customers that, they go, well, I'd love to tell you that we actually follow up on them, but they just kind of sit there, right? So why not once a month? Let's throw them in the auto dialer and let's call them back, right? Or let's automatically send them over to an AI provider that can use a bot to work with, which we can do. We can send them over. So yeah, it really is, and it's easy because what happens is you set up a campaign, you set all the parameters up. And then after that, all you do is you can either upload a file or you can actually, like some of the CRMs have like report writers. You can actually create a report in the CRM and just have an email that calls out to the dialer, and it'll based on what time you want it to start and everything else, it'll just start the campaign and start making the calls. So it's very minimal employee involvement, and it makes a really big difference.
Well, I'll tell you, and maybe I'll talk to you offline another time. So this client that I'm thinking about that just actually purchased your product, one of the issues that we're having with them, we've been trying to work through an automated process, is so think of two groups. So I have a group of customers that we provide an annual termite renewable inspection with a warranty. And then we have everybody else that doesn't have it at all. And the group that does have it, the expiration dates are spread throughout the year. So those that expire in January, February, March. And so we would love to be able to automate something that says, hey, your termite inspection warranty is coming to a close. It's time to renew. To schedule, just press 1 and go to our scheduling group and we'll get you on the calendar.
Yep. We can do that with voice. We can also do it with text. Sorry to interrupt you. So we can do
that's right. And when you program that, how do you can we put a tag in there that says expiration date and it knows send this group out in January, this group out in February? I mean, can you get that sophisticated?
You can't. I mean, whatever report you can produce from the CRM that has the information that the dialer needs, which is pretty simple, phone number, right? Then we can use it in the dialer. So if you can create a report that you say, hey, I want this is the group I want it to call in 3 months, right? We can do that. You've got to be careful because some, you might not have this, some of the customers might have left, you might have, something like that. But yeah, we can definitely do that. Absolutely.
Okay. That's wonderful. And then, so next kind of on this list, we have the call tracking and marketing, which is near and dear to my heart, because one of the things that we find ourselves really having to do all the time is express, many times anyway, that it's not always the calls that are the problem. It's our follow-up and sales skill set to actually get them closed. And by having tracking and recording and these kinds of things, you can actually bring a customer into your world and say, I need you to listen to these before we have this conversation, so you can kind of get a feel for what's going on. And it looks like that some of that data is actually coming from CallRail. Is that how that's working?
Well, there's call tracking. There's the traditional call tracking, right? Which is like you're talking about CallRail. You have tracking numbers. There's different companies that analyze the calls and those type of things. And this is another thing where AI has really made a big difference, because if you think about a call tracking number, okay, I'm a company. I want to run a termite special, so I put a billboard out there or Facebook ad that says termite special, $100 off, right? So people start calling this tracking number. Well, all that really tells you is how many people called the number. It doesn't really tell me how many leads you received. And and what happens is, let's say I call that tracking number and I sign up with this company. What am I going to do? I'm going to save that phone number, and then the next time I want to call the company, I'm going to call the tracking number, right? So now I've got another call to a tracking number that's not a lead. So the power and what a lot of companies have to do is they have to do a lot of work to figure out, okay, how many calls to this number were actually leads, what happened, all that stuff. So that's where our AI really comes in and makes a huge difference. Because a couple of things about our AI, and I know we don't want to get too sidetracked, but
this is very apropos.
Okay, good. Okay, good. So
add into it when you're talking how they get it set up. Do you help?
Absolutely. And I'll start with that, because that's really big. And I mentioned earlier a curated experience, right? So again, I always tell people that I work with, look, these are pest control and lawn care and wildlife people. They're not phone system people. They're not necessarily marketing people. Some of them are, and some are really good at it and everything else. But a lot of the people in this industry, they're just out there, taking care of their customers, killing bugs, working hard, right? And like you said, they just need somebody to come up and say, here's a solution that works, right? Here's how you use it. You don't have to do a whole lot of the setup yourself. So that's really one of the things that separates us out. I mean, like I mentioned, we kind of understand what works for pest control, lawn care, wildlife, all that kind of stuff, right? So we give you a basic turnkey system that works really well. You have all kinds of flexibility. You can do whatever you want. If you want to do it differently, that's fine. So all the AI setup, what we do is with our AI is we run it for a few weeks, and then we do what we call a fine tuning session, because everybody does stuff differently, right? So some companies say, hey, if somebody schedules an estimate, I consider that a successful lead conversion. Other companies say, nope, if we don't have a signed contract, it's not a sale. We don't count it, right? So that's where the fine tuning comes in. And the thing about our AI is, and I like to say it's born and raised in this industry. So it knows the words that people use when they're buying pest and lawn and wildlife, or when they're canceling it, when they're complaining about it, right? So because other platforms have to cover a wide range of industries, boating and hot air balloons or whatever, right? So it doesn't understand things like aeration and overseeding or crack and crevice. So ours does. So anyway, so when you have the AI that really understands it, so now what we can do is we can set up each number, like that tracking number, as a special campaign, and then AI analyzes every single inbound call, which nobody can do now, and it tells you exactly what you want to know about that call. It tells you whether it was a lead or not. It filters out all the people that called in that said, "Oh, I want your service," but they're in a different area, or they want lawn care, and you don't do lawn care. AI pulls those out for you and says, "Hey, you had 1,200 lead calls, but only 900 of those leads were real opportunities." And that's powerful for a couple of reasons. One, it really lets you focus on what you need, but then you're also not going over there and kind of checking on your employees and going, hey, you had 37 leads yesterday. What happened? When really only 15 of them weren't real leads, right? They were just people calling in that didn't turn out to be leads. So, and it can tell you everything that happened on that call. It can tell you what was discussed, the price, was it residential, what service were they interested in, why didn't they buy it, what was their objection. So to me, that's what AI is really going to do, is just say, here's all the information you need. And what we do with our AI is say, here's all the information you need, and here's the best way to use it. right? Now, if you want to use it a different way, fine, we can make that work. But here's the best way to use it without you having to put a lot of effort into trying to figure everything out. Because to your point, they're running a pest control business or a lawn care business or wildlife or whatever, home service, plumbing, doesn't really matter. They just need a communications platform that's going to do what they need it to do to give them the best results. So our AI really does a great job of analyzing those numbers. So I kind of see a shift in the tracking world with AI, because you're still going to need that tracking. You're still going to need disposition, although I'm not trying to say that's going away. But once that phone call actually happens, now we can actually get, because of AI, we can get real data, which before there was a lot of hard work trying to figure out and matching up what happened in the CRM. And it was a lot of kind of sticking things together with duct tape and things like that. So now AI is really bringing that information home. So to answer your question, AI really does a great job on leads. And what we can do is we can send out a report to somebody saying, hey, these are all the leads that called in 3 days ago, right? And we can also tell you which of those leads never got called back. Stuff like that.
What might be fun is, as we start to discover from this podcast who's actually using or interested in using Voice for Pest, and then putting together what you just talked about there is probably the single most difficult thing we do as a marketing agency in terms of metrics. Metrics come down to any longer how many forms got filled out, how many phone calls came in, and how many people messaged us. And then to your point, let's just say that's 100. Okay, now out of that 100, realistically, how can we determine how many of those were not solid leads?
Right.
They were calling to reschedule. They were an SEO guy calling to sell me something. They were this, they were that. So that's the first step in determining what is my actual cost per lead, is how many of those are real leads. And you always have the difficulty of, if you get too involved with the people handling the leads, they obviously want that number of leads to be as low as possible, so that they can, essentially just explain why they didn't sell anybody anything.
Right.
And then the tendency is to believe the marketing company wants to take credit for all leads. Every one of them should be sold. And so the truth lies there somewhere in the middle. But then the key to me, and I had 4,000 sales reps at one point in time, had to negotiate their sales compensation over this number. And that was, okay, we agree now that out of those 100 leads, 75 were good opportunities, reasonable opportunities. They were calling in for service. Now, out of those 75, how many did we actually sell? What was lost and what was won? And that becomes our conversion rate that we know in pest control, you've got to keep it above 30 to 40%. We want it to be 50 to 60. And that, again, is always going to fall back on that will versus skill issue. But if you're in the 10, 12%, which is typically what we uncover, now we have to make sure that we can move towards solutions. And we are oftentimes dealing in a marketplace where the skill set's not there. They're not truly trained, commissioned sales reps. They're office support people. And what we are wanting to do and trying to do, and where I'm going with this, is specifically to what you're saying there. If you could truly do that, if you could, and we'll work with you on an account as a trial. And
we can, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But if we can, for example, I got one client, they're a big client. They've been with us for many, many years. They're out in the San Joaquin Valley in California. And they take, and I've for years have said, I don't know, we got to figure this out. But they shut their phone system off for an hour during lunchtime. And as Murphy's Law would have it, there's always 5 to 10 good leads that come in that hour that we lose. And if we just fix that, I know they would sell 2 or 3, probably every day or every other day, at $500 to $1,000 a piece,
right,
which would justify having a phone system. Anyway, all right. So I don't want to go too much longer or we'll start to lose people.
Okay.
Typically, I figure we got about maybe 10 more minutes or so.
Yeah, 45 minutes, right? Then it'll start forgetting stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and people get to work, they got to go back to work or they get hungry. but I'm going to skip your mobile application
That's
because
fine.
that's just a download and we have to learn how to use it. But it's going to provide, say, technicians and others with a phone system in their pocket, right?
Right. And we also do have, just real quick, yes, it's an app, and every call that goes through the app is the same as if a call goes to the office. So we can record your technician conversations. We can take those and push them into, because one of the things we do that's really powerful is we push things into the CRM. We can push in the call recording. We can push in a summary of the call, a 2-sentence summary of every call. We're going to be able to push in the sentiment to let people know whether the caller was happy or not, right? We can do all that for your technician calls. We can also mask the caller ID. So when a technician calls a customer, the customer sees the technician's, the company number, not the technician. And I'm going to real quick is we can also do it at a cellular. We also have a cellular component. You don't have to use the app. We can actually be your cellular provider as well. I just want to get that out there real quick.
No, I would love that because we are one of the big cellular providers, and their name starts with a capital V. I don't know why it is, and it's and it's one that I use. We use it here in our company. But for some reason, there's issues with it when you're using, let's say, like call rail numbers that forward to a cell number.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I don't know if that's part of the technology to try to prevent spam and it gets caught up in there, but it causes all sorts of difficulty. One of the clients, hi Tim, out there who's listening to this, they're in central or northern Kentucky in a rural area, and they're very interested in your product, and it's one that I would work with because we've used CallRail, and they have 3 numbers that have evolved out of old Cincinnati Bell into these cell numbers that were ported over that are now just causing them nothing but headaches,
Right.
And so we want to try to be able to fix that with them. And last but not least, in terms of just talking stuff, text messaging is becoming enormously important and sometimes a headache to manage. And I know, for example, some will manage it through an inbox on, your desktop or inbox inside your app counterpart. And then we will go through that process of, okay, should everybody get that notification so somebody responds?
Right.
Should we count on one person to do it? And then how do we make sure that those people that we're counting on to do it are doing it? And by doing it, I mean reaching out, responding. But then at the same time, and I'm going to throw this out there again, and I don't know where you are technically. I'm sort of in the middle. I know enough to get in trouble, but I can't really do some of the clever things I want, so I have to rely on others. But we have been a HubSpot partner for many, many years, going back to before their IPO when they were a friendly small company. But they've become so enterprise focused and so expensive that many of our clients are looking for other automation sources. So we've fallen down on Go High Level or High Level. I think when it first came out was full of quirks. It's sort of settled down, but we use that for our automation pipeline, if you will. And we've just started that. We have about a half a dozen that we're still really working through all the kinks and getting it worked out so our staff can consider themselves experts. And I would love to bring in voice messaging, texting into that, and then integrate it in a way that then it triggers all the automations for various things that are happening.
Right.
One of the things it does that we think is just super cool is you can record a voicemail message and it sends out a message response. And I think you said you do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But so talk to me a little bit about, okay, I'm a guy and I'm afraid of all this technology, but I know that I can't answer the phone or answer the messages 100% of the day. So I'm going to put my do not disturb on right now because I'm going to go in and do a job. And now we're going to automate our texting, our messaging, and that while I'm in there. How does that work in Voice for Pest?
Okay, good question. So we have a couple of levels of solution, right? So we have what we call our unified communication platform, which is a voice only platform. And with that platform, within the next couple months, we're going to have our texting inside the same platform. So you'll be able to do voice and texting in the same window. The thing about our texting also is, because of our integrations with most of the industry CRMs, we can actually capture all the text messages that occur and push them into the account, the customer's account, in the CRM. So the voicemails are the voice call recording is there, the text messaging there, and all that kind of stuff. So if you think about that, I mean, you can actually capture every conversation your employees have with your customers and put it right into the CRM, into the account where the employees need it. And we're even testing a live version where we can record live conversations. But to answer your question, we have a solution for the smaller companies, right, that they're not big enough to have 15, 20 people in the contact center, that kind of stuff, that has it texting integrated. And then we also have a contact center level solution that's multi-channel. So in that solution, in one screen, you have voice, email, chat, text. And the beautiful thing about that solution is you can see everything. You can see when an employee receives an email, how long it's set their inbox, how long they actually looked at it, how long it took them to send it. Same thing with text messages, chat, phone calls. So you can report, track everything, real-time alerts. It's really amazing. So there's a couple solutions there that really allow everything to be in what everybody's going for, right? One pane of glass, right? I want my employees to be able to focus and be productive, so that, because they're not hopping all over. I mean, I have 4 screens here. You have a 40-inch one. I'm a little jealous, but I have 4 different screens, right? Because I'm old and I got to have stuff where I can see it. But to answer, so basically, but there's a lot of automation, like you said. Hey, if I'm a smaller company and I got, one person, I'm out in the field, we can do anything you want with those calls. We can forward them to an answering service. We can have them go to voicemail. Our voicemail is transcripted, so instead of having to listen to it, it comes across. You just read it in the email. We can do anything that customer wants. I mean, we can send call. If you say, "Hey, look, for an hour, I'm going to be going for an hour," they can just go off. If they log off, we can automatically send calls to the answering service for an hour. Really, we can pretty much route and handle calls and text messages kind of any way they want. And like you said, the midline companies, they have 3 or 4 office people. They're not phone salespeople. They're not contact center agents, right? They also have other jobs to do. They're they're doing the POs for the boss, right? They're helping with the inventory. They're ordering supplies. They're printing out daily routes. And then when the phone rings, the phone call then becomes an interruption to what they're trying to get done. Right. So you have people on the phone that really aren't trying to be successful on the phone. They're trying to get off the phone because they have to go finish the inventory. Right. So when
you listen to those calls, you can hear it in their voice.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can hear it. You can see it. You can, and it's nothing against them. I mean, they're people just trying to get their job done, and they've been given 10 different responsibilities to do, right? And the phone calls are going to happen no matter what, but they need to have that inventory done by 3 o'clock, or the boss is going to be, unhappy, right? Yeah. So it happens. So what we try to do is provide ways to make things better for customers in that respect. So we can actually, like a lot of companies have what we call ring all, right? Everybody's phone rings at once, right? And I always say, well, who's supposed to answer it? Well, Betty's supposed to answer it, but we listen. And if it rings 2 or 3 times, we know. And I'm like, well, that's terrible. So we have technology that we could say, send every call to Betty first. If Betty's not there or she's busy, we automatically send it to the rest of the group, so they don't have to hear every phone call ring. So we have a lot of, without going into too much detail, like you said, we're running out of time. We have a lot of features and we have a lot of capabilities that can make a lot of things easier. I said a lot 3 times for our customers, where they can do, like you're saying, automated. Hey, if I'm out of the office, for smaller customers, we can handle everybody. Smaller customers, we have a suite of products and features for them. Midline, anywhere from 2 to 6, 7, 8 people in the office. And then we have a full contact center solution that is really amazing, and the reporting is amazing. So we have a lot of tools in our toolbox to help our customers automate things and handle calls. We can automatically change an outbound caller ID. If you have 2 offices and 2 different area codes, the same person calls one office, we could show that local number. They hang up and call the other office, we could show that local number. I mean, somebody in that office area. So we have a lot of cool things we can do.
Well, let me, I'll throw this out to you, and we can talk again.
Sure.
We've just become introduced to one another. And again, I've got the perfect test client that I would love to. We're very friendly with them. They're a great business. They've been with us for a very long time. And he just sent me this morning. He said, "Hey, Casey, I don't know if you know, we just got Voice for Pest. And they've got a lot of great opportunities for us to be able to help them use some of all of the features you've just talked about
Right.
to do things. Like they because they're in Tennessee, they do a few unusual services, like they'll do chiggers, fleas and ticks, yard stuff,
Yeah.
in addition to general pest control. So they've got a number of different things, and it would be wonderful. One of the things that we have been trying to do with them is get everything all bundled up so that when they go out and see a client, they can do whatever they
Right.
need to do. Now, I'll let you kind of bring us home here and finish us up. And maybe you can tell people, we've covered a lot here. So probably forego that sounds great, but how do we get in touch with them? How do we do this? How do I design what I specifically want to do for my client? And then maybe if you want to talk a little bit about any pricing that you might
Sure.
have, how those tiers start out, starter package up to the full service, whatever it is. And then also, do you do you have any partnership programs where you work with a company like us here at Rhino?
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely. Yeah, we have a ton of partners. Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to spend meet later and talk about. Yeah, I definitely think we can help each other and help our mutual customers a lot.
well, what I would love to do is get a test case like this client I'm thinking about, and I think they use field routes. So you've
Okay.
already kind of got that API.
Yep.
And
Yep.
if we could bring all these things together and plug it into high level to do some of the other automations that are not available in either field routes or voice for pest, and then be able to have another meeting like this where we can then say, hey, after that last meeting,
Yeah.
here's what we did with this company. We can have the owner on there with us and just walk through and maybe even show the dashboard
Yeah.
and show some of the cool things.
That sounds
Anyways,
great. That sounds really
why,
good. Yeah.
why don't you go ahead and just sort of finish up? The show's yours. Take a few
Okay.
minutes.
All
And
right.
then when you're done, what I'll do is I'm gonna take you out, do our outro, and finish it up.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for having me. It's been great. It's been a pleasure. I mean, we just met, but I feel like we've been around the same circles a lot, and I think we've had a lot of the same experiences. So I'm looking forward to working with you more in the future. Um, yeah. So as far as pricing, I mean, we started at $29.95 a user per month, right? We have customers with one extension. I mean, their bill's like $45 a month, right? We have customers with 1,500 extension. So it really depends, and it goes up from there. But our pricing is very competitive. We very seldom run into somebody saying, "Oh, you're this much and they're that much." I'm not saying we're not the cheapest, we're not the most expensive, but you can get a phone system for $29.90 for about $45 a month for one person, and then we can go from there. So pricing is pretty reasonable. And then I guess the other thing that I would just talk about is, again, our integrations are really there's two things that set us apart: integrations and support. We can do some cool things. We talked about intelligent call routing. We get a screen pop when somebody calls you. You answer the phone, like Field Route, for example, their account pops up, and other CRMs as well. Their account screen pops up. So your employee it's a faster call. They can get through more calls. But you think about the person calling in, right? I call in normally and I say, hey, yeah, I have a problem with I have roaches in my kitchen, right? Okay, what's your address? What's your phone number? What's your account number? Right? When they have the screen pop, the employee says, oh, is this Mr. Kidwell at 122 Wilson Street? Yeah. Okay, great to hear you. Great to hear from you again. How can I help you? Much better call from the customer's perspective, or the least, you also get a screen pop if it's not a customer. Click to call. They can click the phone number in the CRM and make the call. So again, we're keeping that employee right there. They don't have to go over here and call the number. They don't have to misdial the number. And then the auto note. At the end of every call, we mentioned earlier, we can push notes into the call. It documents the time, date of the call with a call recording, a two-sentence summary of every call that AI produces, the full transcription of the call. And very soon you'll be able to see if the last time we spoke to this customer, they were happy or unhappy. So pretty powerful stuff, all designed to make your employees more efficient, more productive, increase your sales, and then like with our AI, we can send you a report that says, these are all the people that called in yesterday that were AI is deemed potential cancel risk. They didn't cancel, but based on the conversation, you might want to give them a hug. You might want to check on them, right? So a lot of cool stuff like that. But we are in this industry, and we really feel like we're part of the pest control and lawn care industry and home services and wildlife. And we want to help everybody. And we have a lot of great features to do it. So I guess I kind of rambled there at the end, but I guess that's all I have to say other than thank you. And you want to voiceforpest.com, like you said, voiceforpest.com. Come on and see us.
So if I wanted, after I listened to this, I wanted to call you guys and find out some more or get set up with a sales rep or somebody, I go to just voiceforpest.com.
Yep.
And is there a contact?
There's a form you can fill out that comes right to us, and we may not call you instantly, but we're pretty quick on the follow up. So yeah, you can fill out a form, and our phone number's right there. You can call us. We answer the phone live. I mentioned our support. We answer the phone live 8 to 8 Monday through Friday Eastern. So a lot of these phone companies, if you have less than 5 extensions, you don't even get a phone number. You get an email. Right? Seriously, it's true. Right? You call us and a live human being answers the phone, and we only have like 5 people, so you get to know us and we get to know you. And we have thousands of customers. We're a big company, but we were agile, and we like to just that again. We feel like we're kind of like a pest control company, right? When you call pest control companies, most of the time you're going to talk to a person, right?
Right.
So that's kind of how we roll.
Well, again, I will say thank you. I appreciate.
Thank you.
This has been very informative, a lot of cool stuff. And what I would love is for after, maybe tomorrow or it's Friday, maybe next week, if you can hook me up with somebody, send me an email and I'll send you the name of this client. And I would love to stick my nose into the onboarding and come up with some thoughts and ideas and see how this goes. And then we can report back, I don't know, after the first, and maybe have another meeting and review what we went through, because this is a very typical client for us and a very typical setup that if we could do what I have in my mind's eye, it would be great to share with others on.
Okay.
How
absolutely.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll email you a calendar link. We'll get together for sure.
All right. Well, then I'm going to go ahead and kick you out. And I will say thank you once again. This is Raymond Kidwell with Voice for Pest here on the Pest Control Marketing Domination Podcast. Thanks for visiting.
You've been listening to the Pest Control Marketing Domination Podcast. If you own a pest control company anywhere in the country, by using our services, we will help you grow and prosper. Casey has 30 years in marketing and advertising under his belt. He managed and oversaw a sales force of 4,000 inside and outside sales reps, tasked to work with every pest control owner in the USA. Thanks for listening to the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube at Rhino Digital Media. Let us take your digital marketing to the next level. See you next time on the Pest Control Marketing Domination Podcast.